Please stand with us while we cite the invocation to be followed by the pledge of allegiance. Father, we come in some of the most difficult times and unseen circumstances in this country, but we come with thanksgiving in our hearts for all that you have done for us as a city, as individuals, as a governing board, as a state, and as a nation. Thank you for your kindness, your mercy, and your love. We pray, Father, for our first responders, our nurses, healthcare providers, police force, fire responders, and all who care for the life and the safety of those who have been affected by this pandemic. We pray that our work here will not be in vain, that we transact fairly, honestly, and to the best of our abilities, the work that has been laid for us for the town of Spring Lake. So we thank you and we bless you for being good to all of us and for keeping us to see yet another day. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We apologize for beginning late, but we had some technical situations to resolve. So we thank you for your patience, for your indulgence, and for your gathering that we might be able to do what we have been assigned to do for the town of Spring Lake. Those of you who have your agendas, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? Hearing none, is there a motion for approval of the agenda? Alderman O'Gara.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as is.
Alderwoman Cooper. I'm sorry, Alderwoman Jackson.
I second that motion.
It has been moved and seconded that we approve the agenda as written. All in favor, sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, sign of nay. Item 6, approval of consent items. Mayor Pro Tem.
Mayor,
Yes.
I think you'll probably have to ask us to verbally acknowledge whether we vote yea or nay under these circumstances.
That's a good idea. Okay, let's go back and take a voice vote on the motion to approve the agenda. All in favor, sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, sign of nay. So your vote was an aye?
Yes, it was.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you. Okay, the motion, would you continue the motion to approve the consent items?
Sure. I move to approve the minutes of the March 9th, 2020 regular meeting and the minutes of the March 23rd, 2020 special meeting.
Alderman O'Gara.
I'd like to make second that motion.
It has been moved and seconded that we approve the consent items, the March 9th and the March 21st regular and special meetings. All in favor, sign of aye by voice vote. Aye.
Aye.
Any nays?
Aye.
The ayes have it. Presentation. There's a blank space here. At this time, I would like to do a little presentation, and this is based on the governor's press conference this afternoon. I think it's important that for those who did not hear it, those who don't have access, at least be able to hear part of what the governor has to say. So, his press conference was today at about 3:20, I think, in that neighborhood. And I just have here a few highlights of his presentation. He emphasized the importance of his stay-at-home order, and that is to be done at least through April. with no promises to loosen the restrictions even after then. But loosening restrictions, he assured us that would be on a way to boost the economy without overwhelming hospitals. Point number 2 from my notes, the virus is accelerating but at a much slower pace, and it is due in large to the social gathering. Point number 3, what we're doing is working. In quotations, what we are doing is saving lives. Point number 4, our biggest enemy is complacency. Point number 5, what happens in the next 2 weeks goes back to point number 2. Will determine what executive orders and restrictions may be needed in May. Point number 6, he says that these things are working. Limits on social gatherings, schools being closed, and limits on bars and restaurants. Point number 7, statistically, there have been 4,816 confirmed cases of COVID-19, 313 hospitalized, and 86 deaths. The next point, retail stores are to continue to limit the number of customers to no more than 20% of maximum capacity. The next point is that retail stores have been ordered to clean more frequently. And finally, retail stores are still be advised to enforce the 6-foot social distancing. And that's just some highlights. And anyone who wants to hear more or know more about this press conference may tune in. These things are available through social media. And thank you for allowing us to do this presentation. It is on the agenda, but without a name. Our first presentation for tonight, 7A, is the update on the town 2018 audit. Mr. Grissom, how do we get in touch with Mr. Grissom? No, wait a minute. Okay, yes, Mr. Grissom. Melissa, he does not answer. 7B, Mr. Grissom does not answer. 7C, and I hope he will answer before we conclude. 7C, the update on the town website, Mr. Gerald.
Thank you, Mayor, Board of Aldermen. The website has been completed. We did try a launch of the website in February, but the emails were not talking on the servers. And I'm not real technical here, but our Lux server was not reading the code that was on the mainframe. So I ended up having to call Jesse back in, and we were able to finally get them talking, but we couldn't get the website showing. So just about when we went to go full blast on this, because I think Jesse was running into some problems when I was on. He wasn't able to make contact with anybody in the town to get it started. So when we started back the process, the budget came up, COVID-19 came up, all those things came up. So what we're going to try to do, I think the IT person is going to retire in May. When we bring on the new IT person, I'll task that person to straighten out that conversation between those two servers. After that, it should be going on, but I would like the new website to be able to do it.
So, in other words, it won't be out until a new IT person is hired.
Right.
And that date, I know you said about a certain date, but what date is that anticipated to be?
Probably sometime in June, hopefully, if COVID doesn't slow us down.
I'm sorry, I did not hear that. I didn't hear the last part.
Hopefully in sometime in later June.
So is this a new position that we're hiring for?
It'll be the same position, but it's a position that the old IT person is retiring out of.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
It's not a new position, it's the IT position that he's retiring.
The IT person is retiring, is that what you said?
That is correct.
So can I ask how much we paid so far for this website?
I believe the contract was $20,000.
No, the full contract was 50,000. What I'm asking is, could you get us numbers of what we have already paid the person who's doing the website?
Yes, I can.
And when can I have that? When can we have that?
I can probably get it to you this week since we finished the budget books.
All right, thank you.
Okay, all right, Alderwoman Jackson.
Mr. Gerald, so I'm trying to make things clear. The reason the website is not up right now is because we're having several problems that we have to do with the guy that's doing the website as well as our IT person, right?
Correct.
So it's not that it's the total fault of the new website guy. It's just that we the server problems, and the reason it's running a little slow is because of everything else that's going on right now.
Correct.
Which is very important what we got going on right now.
Correct, yes.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Is there some way we can minimize I think we can hear as long as someone is speaking into the mic, but when they grow silent, we hear the background buzz. I wonder if these individual mics here.
No, it's the Skype.
It's the Skype.
Skype.
Okay. Okay. Well, that did it. What happened? Miss Cooper?
It froze.
Miss, we see your image is frozen, but can you still hear us?
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Okay, hold on. Let us try to. Mr. Lemon said it's frozen.
Okay, yeah, they're moving.
It's Cooper, right?
Miss Cooper's not. Hang on, Miss Cooper.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Three problems.
Well, can you still see us?
See if I can still go.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
You hear us, Ms. Cooper?
I can hear you.
And can you see us?
No, I can see Melissa, that's it. And I can see McConnell and Christians.
Oh, okay, maybe.
Melissa had,
Yeah, I can.
Yeah, we're supposed to be heard.
okay, that's the way she had the computer. Shall we proceed? Update, 70 update on town operations about the coronavirus. Mr. Gerald again.
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
Speak into the mic, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, the update on town operations. I think when it hit about March 19th or so, the first thing we did after the stay-at-home order was executed by the governor is that we closed down Town Hall to the public. Once we closed down Town Hall to the public, we also instituted a rotation of the workers that came into the town. That was the second thing we did. And then thirdly, we started making contact with different towns in the area to see how they were functioning. They were also doing the same thing as far as rotating people out. Originally, the other towns did not shut down their town hall. They were still functioning. So eventually, the towns have shut down their town hall to the public. As far as internal operations, we started closing town hall at 3 p.m. We notified the public via the media website, social media, things of that nature. We gave travel letters to essential personnel just in case they needed to be out to get home. That was the reason why we left out at 3, so that they could get home before 5, just in case they had to go by the store. We do have the fire department also doing daily checks of the staff to make sure that they are not, contagious or feverish. We're also checking, not in depth, but on their whereabouts and who they're around, things of that nature to try to control it, try to control the spread. We've started buying masks. I think there was a complaint on the type of mask that we bought from Amazon, and we waited about about 3 or 4 weeks for those masks. We have 25 additional cloth-made masks, and I didn't bring an example in here, that should be ready on tomorrow. So we will give those out and give those out to the board members as well. We limited the meetings to essential personnel only. Only having 10 people in the space. That's an old piece of information. We also, we have double offices. We have since stopped having double offices. We rotate people one at a time in those offices. And then we have talked to the fire chief about actually logging off-site locations, but that may have been a little bit invasive, so we just check it through the fire department. The essential town departments that I named was water and sewer, police and fire, public works. Inspections is an essential department which came down from their office, the insurance department, the finance department, and revenue, and of course IT. Lastly, as of today, I just got an email this afternoon from Sally Shutt of the county. You have 86 total cases of COVID in Cumberland County. We do have 2 deaths in Cumberland County, and we do have 1 case in Spring Lake, and that person is in the hospital in Livingston.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem and someone down here, I didn't catch it. Alderwoman Jackson.
Have you had any luck getting any hand sanitizer?
No, sir, we have not. I gave out some of my own personal, but I have not had any luck with that. We do have Clorox wipes, though.
Have we looked into maybe producing hand sanitizer in-house? Has anyone looked into whether that's a feasible option?
I'll look into it.
Okay, thank you.
I'll look into it.
The case in Spring Lake, is that in the city limits of Spring Lake or the outskirts of Spring Lake, which is considered Horny County?
The one that I mentioned was in Spring Lake.
In the city limits of Spring Lake?
Yes.
So what are we doing to notify the citizens?
We notified them during the meeting, but I didn't want to necessarily cause mass hysteria. But we do have 1 citizen that tested positive, but that 1 citizen has been isolated to a hospital, so they're no longer in Spring Lake.
Do we know where they got it from? What part of Spring Lake they got it from?
The county hasn't released that.
So the county will let you know what's going on?
Yes.
And then you in turn let us know?
Yes.
Like yesterday?
Yes.
Alderwoman Cooper.
Yes, thank you. I just want to say publicly a thank you to you, Mayor Dobbins, and to the county, because there was something going around on social media that there was a confirmed case at one of our local eating establishments, and we had that investigated, and the county put out a public notice stating that they had no knowledge of a confirmed case that establishment. I'm really grateful that we were able to clear that up.
Yes, I think that precipitated on Facebook, and the county investigated, and they squashed it and determined that it was rumor, And I asked on behalf of the town, Miss Chris, to post that notification that I got from the county, and I think she indeed did that. And that's the last I heard or read of that, unless I logged on to somebody's Facebook page, in which case I knew better. But I'm going to ask Mr. Gerald to do this. Now, we were given some updates, but I would respectfully request that you provide the board with emails on a daily basis until this pandemic is over, because when questions come up, again, it's a matter of fact or fiction. If we have the facts from you and from your perspective, when we hear things being quoted, we will know the difference. And I would ask that all of us get emails on whatever changes may take place. And many times we get changes because of water bills, because of things that are happening in and on the streets of our town. And you are closer to it than most of us, because many of us are still practicing staying home. And it will help us to be able to voice exactly what's going on in Spring Lake if we know. And you can give us an update at the end of the day, and then that way we can go back and correct people on their misinformation on what transpired on that day. And on a daily basis, we can attack it day at a time. Because one of the things that put people in a panic is hearing stuff without a foundation of truth. And then sometimes we have to put out fires. But we don't know where the fire is, because it can come from anywhere. I think that's a reasonable request to enlighten us or update us on a daily basis of the changes that have gone on in this town under your supervision. Okay, any other questions or comments to Mr. Gerald? Okay, item 8, public forum. We have 2 call-ins, Ms. Felicia and Mr. Troy Simmons. And you're calling now. Okay, thank you.
Yes, Ms. Felicia, this is Melissa Piero. Ms. Felicia, please state your name and address and reason why you're calling.
I live at 2517 East Linkley in Spring Lake, North Carolina. The reason I am calling is to wish the mayor a happy birthday on behalf of the water department and the town hall. Happy birthday and enjoy your day. We love you.
Thank
Have
you.
a great evening.
Thank you so much. That's so sweet of all of you all to remember me on my 74th birthday. If I was young, I would only be 47, but, well, I've been blessed to reach this age. So thank you all very much for your love and for what you do for us.
You're welcome. I wish you many, many more. You have a great evening.
Thank you, thank you. And I just received my card, so thank you all again.
You're welcome.
All
Bye-bye.
right. Bye-bye.
The next public forum is going to be Mr. Troy Simmons. Yes, Mr. Simmons. Hi, this is Melissa here from the town of Spring Lake.
Hi, Melissa.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. I hope you are.
I'm doing great.
Yes. Go ahead, Mr. Simmons. We're ready to hear you.
Am I on with everyone?
Sir, Mr. Simmons, please state your name and address.
My name is Troy Hayden Simmons, address 1504 North Bragg Boulevard, Spring Lake, North Carolina.
You may begin, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and Board of Aldermen. Thank you so much for giving me a few minutes to speak with you this evening in these very different times. I'm sorry I can't be there face to face with you. I appreciate your time. Mr. Mayor, we met about this time last year down at the Church of the Covenant at Manchester Road when we had our barbecue sale. Appreciate meeting you through my family member, Lisa Darden of Darden Insurance. I'm calling to request you folks to waive the building permit fees for my home at 1504 North Bragg Boulevard. That home has been in my family since my granddad built it in 1952. My family's been an integral part of Spring Lake for that length of time, and even before that, my granddad was an overseer for the Rockefellers up at Overhill, where four of my mom's brothers and sisters were born. I am the third generation to own that home. Unfortunately, Hurricane Florence put 5 foot of water in the first floor of that house, flooded the little creek out back, 25 feet of water. And UNFOR, which is the Methodist Statewide Disaster Recovery Team, based out of Fayetteville up on Piedmont Hill, started to work on the house last year, but never got far enough where we needed a building permit when the fees will be in place, is my understanding, for a year up through the end of September. So we never got a building permit at that time. Now, thank heaven, Habitat for Humanity, as of a few weeks ago, has stepped up and said they are graciously going to rebuild my family home for me. Sorry, I get emotional. So I appreciate them stepping up to do that. I've been dealing with Tricia Hickman more, whose family and my daughter's family goes back many years, the Hickman family, because we've been around a long time. Some of you probably knew my Uncle David that ran the Exxon there in Spring Lake, but the Darden family's been in Spring Lake a long time. And I would love to get that house rebuilt to help give Spring Lake a beautiful home on the entranceway into the north side of Spring Lake. So I'm requesting now that Habitat has stood up and we need building permits, my understanding from the inspection permit, due to the cost of rebuilding a home of that size, that building permits are going to be $300 more, is my understanding. That I would love to get a waiver from you folks, if at all possible. I appreciate your consideration of that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Hankins.
I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Oh, okay. What would be the overall or the final cost for your fees and permits? I heard $300, but I'm sorry, I heard 300. Is it more than that?
Melissa, can you reply to that question?
Mr. Simmons, he asked what is the overall cost for the permit fees?
Overall cost for the permit fees?
Yes, sir.
It's my understanding at this time, based on the application I've turned in the last week, talking with Patricia Moore, that it's approximately $300. She has sent me some additional forms that I'll be sending in tomorrow based on estimates we've gotten from Habitat for Humanity, which is going to cost approximately $55,000 to rebuild a house. that the fees will be at least $300. That is what I've been told at this point in time. I don't know if the inspections director is there or not, if he needs more information or not, but that is what I've been told at this point in time.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
Yes, that's what we thought.
And we will respond to him shortly. Well, you just tell him that.
Okay, Mr. Simmons will respond to you shortly, okay?
Thank you very much for your consideration. I appreciate y'all's time. Stay safe in these days, and I appreciate your help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Ms. Cooper, did you catch that conversation? Ms. Cooper?
I did,
Okay.
and, that his house flooded in Florence. Aren't we waiving those fees anyway?
Yes.
His house flooded in Florence. I know who that is, and, I know that they're part of the Darden family. So I went over there and spoke to all of those people in those houses over there. But it was my understanding we were waiving fees for those houses because they were part of Florence, Hurricane Florence.
Mr. Jones?
I believe I believe the time to waive those fees has ended, and that's what caused the issue.
Okay, but we should be able to go back and take care of that, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we're at the new business. Chief Williams, North Carolina Statewide Emergency Management Mutual Aid and Assistance Agreement.
Yes, Mayor, Board, that's just a form that we fill out to be able to start paperwork for, more other people in the state.
Hold on. Can you hear him, Ms. Cooper?
Yes, I can.
Is it turned on?
There you go.
Okay.
All right. Sorry, he had the mute button put on. Yeah, it's a form that we start so we can the mutual aid agreements for everything, so we can get help, we can send help, and all of that nature. It's a useful thing for us, so it works really well. So I signed that paper for us the other day. The town manager did, and we send it in my name to run it. That's why I gave you the book of the emergency plan that we put together. Kind of goes A through Z, everything that you need to know in an emergency and what your roles are in it. Ms. Cooper, I'll have yours here and we'll get it to you. That's about it. There was not a whole lot to it. It's just it gets the ball rolling for different things.
Mr. Hankins?
Mr. Mayor and Alderman, if I can add just a little bit to that, this does require a motion and a vote of the board to approve this agreement. It's an agreement like any other agreement that the board authorizes. I can tell you the background of this, because I had my hand in this. When Hurricane Fran came through in 1996, it taught us across the state that it was impractical to have a patchwork of mutual assistance agreements across the state in a hurricane or other type of emergency. So the attorneys on the league staff, at the request of the governor's office, took the lead in drafting a statewide model agreement. And cities and counties started adopting that, but were not finished by the time Hurricane Floyd came through. So Governor Hunt's first executive order when Hurricane Floyd was on the way was to adopt that agreement on behalf of every city and county in the state. And everybody played under the same rules, same mutual aid agreement, and it worked much better. And this is about probably the 6th or 7th periodic revision of that agreement, and I certainly recommend it to you for your approval.
Thank you. Alderwoman Jackson.
I make a motion that we approve North Carolina statewide emergency management mutual aid and assistance agreement.
Alderman Gallo. It has been moved and seconded that we accept the mutual aid agreement, the emergency management mutual aid and assistance agreement. All in favor, sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, sign of nay. Thank you.
A couple of things while I'm sitting there, but we're talking about emergency preparedness and all. Ms. Jackson, your question about the person in town, remember, we're not allowed giving out names or addresses where these people live. So don't think that we'll be able to tell you where this person stays or anything like that, because that's a HIPAA violation. We will get ourselves in a truckload of problems if we do that. We're not allowed to do that.
I wasn't asking where he was staying, I was asking where he may have been in, especially
I agree with you.
Walmart area and stuff like that, so people to be aware of. I know you can't tell me where.
Yeah. I was making sure that I want everybody to understand that we can't give out names. We couldn't give anything like that out. The second thing, I was watching Mayor a minute ago, the mask. It's great that everybody wears their mask. One of the problems that we're having is if you do breathe anything in like that, you take it off, and then you make sure you wash your hands before you do anything with it, because you touch your eyes or mouth again, all you did was you didn't stop anything. So I saw that a minute ago, so I was like, make sure that you do that. And we do have a request in from the state for hand sanitizer and anything like that. And when we get some, we'll definitely let you know. It's been really hard to find that anywhere. Just a couple questions here.
Oh, sorry, just about the mask, one of the advantages of the masks is that while you're wearing it, it's really hard to touch your face. So that is actually the reason why people wear it, even though this is not that useful to, prevent you from getting the virus from other people. What it does is it prevents you from touching your face while the mask is on. So after the mask is taken off, you wash your hands, and you go on with your regular life.
Right, that's why I was just trying to make sure he did that, make sure, because he took his mask, he had it on, he took it off, making sure he don't touch anything before then. Just get in the routine of doing that before you do that. It's just a little, I'm watching people fix me. Thanks, sir.
And I appreciate that, because anybody who's watching YouTube may have seen the worst practice there is. I mean, touching my face is something I do, right?
Right, but everybody does.
But thank you for that.
Yes,
Thank you for that. The mask won't help if I turn around and put something on my face that's contaminated. Thank you. It's a lesson for me and for all of us. Okay, item 9B, Mr. McConnell. He's been staging for quite a while, but welcome, sir.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, well, I appreciate the time, gentlemen. It's kind of ironic that the presentation I'm going to do is on the last major disaster, even though we're dealing with the current one right now. But the presentation is on the town of Spring Lake, the wastewater treatment plant. The staff, many people within the town have been working very hard to get to secure money for the town of Spring Lake from FEMA. And this is from Hurricane Florence. As you all know, the Hurricane Florence happened in September of 2018. Major flooding of the town's wastewater plant, and extensive damage was done throughout the facility. FEMA has come forward and basically they provided two options for funding. One is the direct cost method, which is the typical method, and they've also offered a fixed cost offer, and these are for two items. One, to repair the existing plant to where it was, and secondly, a mitigation, which would be to put a berm around the plant should it be flooded again. Even though some of the staff have reservations about mitigation, that also allows the town to potentially get more money, and I'll touch on that. If you go, there was with the FEMA's come forward and said, okay, we have the option. We can do the direct cost method or the fixed cost offer. And in summary, a little over $650,000 have been spent to date in completing various damages to the plant. And there's approximately $1.265,000 worth of work to be done. This provides a total cost estimate of $1,920,000. What FEMA does is they can offer a fixed cost offer, which is typically higher using various factors, because with the fixed cost offer, it helps, they don't have to go through as much record keeping. Also, some of the factors such as inflation, cost of doing things locally, everything adds to that. So with respect to what the damage is done, they've come up with a fixed cost offer just for that portion of $3.793 million. The mitigation project, to put a berm around the plant with floodgates, has an estimated cost of $1.771 million. The fixed cost, again, if you were to take a fixed cost offer, that would be a lump sum fee for that alone of $3,695,000. When you subtract the insurance reductions from that total fixed cost offer, they have a combined fixed cost offer of $6,758,000. Okay? That would be both for the damages and mitigation. I want to just touch on the direct costs. So this is the traditional way of FEMA reimbursing the town. And for every work effort that the town has done, they would submit their invoices to FEMA. And they would reimburse the town for the cost of repairs. Okay? FEMA would pay the actual cost of repairs. So there's essentially there's really the risk to the town is minimal, but the dollar amount is less. This requires, however, a significant amount of administration on the town's part, and as things are done, town would have to document all, get different quotes and document everything. With the fixed cost offer, as I mentioned, there's two components. One is the repair, and the second is the mitigation costs. Okay, those have been evaluated. When they made the lump sum offer, there's two parts. One for the repairs, one for the mitigation. With the fixed cost offer, the town is responsible for any benefits, is responsible for any or benefits from the difference in the lump sum cost and the actual cost. So if costs come in less than the fixed cost offer, the town can keep that amount, provided they do the for example, they do the repairs or they do the mitigation efforts. The other thing that this allows the town to do with the fixed cost offer is, we don't need the decision at this point, but later in the fall we need the decision. Between now and then, does the town want to apply for an alternative project? Okay? For example, the plan is fairly old, and the town may elect to say, instead of putting money towards an older plant, we may want to invest that in a newer facility, more energy efficient, one that isn't going to have as many problems, and also potentially expanded capacity. If the fixed cost offer is accepted by the town can then apply for an alternative project. They can also just make the necessary repairs up until the new facility goes in operation. For example, if there's a piece of equipment that should be repaired, but the town can get by without it, that money can be used for the the remaining funds can be used for a new plant. FEMA will also have to approve the alternative project and determine if mitigation funds will be eligible. So it's not guaranteed that FEMA will accept that, but I think with a hard case, we could submit that that may be possible. Again, it isn't guaranteed that the FEMA will accept the alternative project or the money for the mitigation, but it is very possible. At this point, the only real decision that has to be made, and what we would recommend, is we fear that the money offered by FEMA for fixed cost option is much greater than, let's say, the actual cost is at this point to accept the fixed cost offer for both the repairs and the mitigation. This allows the town to apply for alternative projects should they wish at a later date. And should they decide not to at a later date, if they were to accept those two pots of money, they could always deobligate the mitigative project if the town applied for an alternative project and it was not pursued. The deadline for accepting the fixed cost offer is April 17th, so we need a decision to help the town to respond to FEMA on whether they want the fixed cost offer or not. And again, we recommend that the town at this point accept the fixed cost offer for both the repairs and mitigation, and at a later date determine whether they want to apply for an alternative project. At this point, I'd like to respond to any questions.
Mayor Pro Tem.
So I think you did answer this question, but just to be clear, if we do decide on an alternative project, the money that we would be getting right now could go towards that project, correct?
I had trouble hearing.
No worries, sorry. I was saying that if we do decide to do an alternative project, like building a new plant, could we use this $6 million towards that instead of using it for repair of the old plant?
Yes, cost and maybe just for the repairs. That to build a new plant, what you have to do is apply for an alternative project. So you'd have to provide justification. Let's say, okay, the plant is older. We're going to make sure that it's still flood-proof, whether it's raised above. So that money, yes, could be used towards building a new plant. In the interim, if that were chosen, some of the money could be used to fix or make some of the repairs that would be desirable over that short term.
Thank you.
Alderman O'Gara.
So Gary, from what I'm gathering, your guidance in the direction to that. Right now, I believe what we really want to do is get an alternate location. But your guidance in the direction so that we will be able to do that down the line.
My direction is a very strong possibility. That has to be approved by FEMA. But the advantage, in my opinion, to accept the lump sum or the fixed cost offer, you're getting a lot more money guaranteed. The risk is if there's superinflation, the cost may be above. So you don't have to build a new plant, but it leaves you that option to apply to FEMA for an alternative project. So to accept the lump sum, you still could repair the plant. You could still put a berm around it, but it also gives you the option of the alternative project, which might be to put a plant on higher ground or build it flood-proof with a new facility that isn't as ancient of current technology.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you have the floor.
Thank you. I believe you came before us before, and we could take that money, and because we're close to capacity, we could take that money and build a bigger plant, correct? And still ask for more funding to help build that, correct?
Well, what happens is this, ma'am. If you elect for the fixed cost offer, okay, if you accept that, that means the town would get the $6.758 million. Mm-hmm. What they could do is you could, after any repairs that are made, that money could be used. If you applied for FEMA for an alternative project, there's the potential to use that for a new plant, yes. I can't guarantee that because that has to be approved by FEMA. But I think there's a very good possibility that could go through to have that done there.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman O'Gara.
Gary, do you have an idea what a new plant would cost us?
We had, for a new plan, Mr. Gary, it depends upon the capacity of the desired plant. Right now, we presented a cost curve at the last meeting that showed kind of a range of current, plants that have been built recently. We're currently looking at different flows and determining what that cost would be.
You don't have a dollar figure.
I don't have a dollar right now because there's some, we've requested what's called the waste log allocation for both a $3 and a $6 million plant, just to see if businesses were to come through or anything like that. We're in a position to present to the town the options at a later date.
I was thinking it would possibly be over $13 million.
Could you repeat that, sir?
I would believe it would be over 13 million.
I would say very possibly. And what could be done though is there's other programs that we could try to get money for. In other words, there's different other grant type programs. And if we could leverage that, get some of those commitments, leverage that with the FEMA, that would put us, the town, in a much better position to get the alternative project. So that's what we're looking at now.
Thank you, sir.
Are there any other questions? At this time, we'll entertain a motion. Alderman O'Gara.
I'd like to make a motion that we go along with the suggestion of staff. When I say staff, I mean Gary.
I second that.
Did you second?
Yes, I did.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the fixed cost offer with mitigation option of $6,758,000. You heard the motion. Are you ready for the question?
Question.
All in favor, sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, sign of nay. Okay. Did you say aye, Alderwoman Cooper?
I did.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, board. We appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you.
We do have an opportunity to go back to Mr. Grissom. I tried to text him, but he sent me a message back that we could call him, that Mr. Gerald has the number. Melissa, can you ring up Mr. Grissom and have him update us on the 2018 and 19 audit, please? He had agreed to do it this way. Type in his extension, 307. Let us try it again. If that doesn't work, I have his mobile number. If this doesn't work, 307. I think he's been working from home.
Yes, hello, Mr. Grissom? Yes, this is Melissa here from the town of Spring Lake. Fine, how are you?
Hello, Mr. Grissom. Can you hear me, sir?
Mr. Grissom,
Yes.
can you hear the mayor?
Yes, just speak again.
Yes. We're ready to hear your update on the 2018 audit. First.
Okay, yeah, I can hear you. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Be ready to get started. How's everybody doing this evening? Good, good. I wish I was there in person. This social distancing and remote working has been unusual, but we may need to get used to it in the next year. But yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to audit the town of Spring Lake. This is the 4th year our firm has audited the town of Spring Lake. Again, my name is Lee Grissom. I'm an audit partner at S. Preston Douglas. The firm's been around for 78 years. We have 3 offices in North Carolina, and we currently audit around 55 governmental audit clients, and that number keeps expanding. So we've had a good stretch with Spring Lake. This year has been unusual. What I would like to do tonight is you should have a 22-page handout. Do you guys have a copy? It's Town of Spring Lake's on the cover, report to the mayor and members of the Board of Aldermen. You guys have that report in front of you?
Yes.
Okay, so that's where I would like to go over. Let's flip past the table of contents and
Excuse
go
me,
to page
Mr. Chris.
1.
Excuse me. Ms. Cooper, Alderwoman Cooper,
Yes,
can you mute? We're hearing all that noise, whatever you're doing, we're hearing it.
I was not doing anything.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, and there will be just a heads up. There's a lot of information to cover, but some of this stuff will summarize, and you'll have plenty of opportunity to ask questions. But at the beginning of the presentation, let's just get through some of this information just to get going, and then there'll be plenty of opportunity to interrupt with questions. So on page 1, first off, this is my contact information. So you have my address, you have my office number, my mobile number, fax number, and email. Feel free to contact me at any time. Some of the board members have contacted me this year. It's been an unusual year. But yeah, feel free. I do like talking to you guys if you ever have anything, any questions or concerns. So feel free to contact that information. All right, on page 2, 3, and 4, this is good information for newer board members. Page 2 and 3, I'm not going to go over this very much right now, but it's an overview of governmental financial statements. As you know, if you've looked at these reports, there's about 90 pages. It can be very confusing. There's far more information than there needs to be. So if you look at page 2 and 3, there's some definitions of exactly what you're looking at. Feel free to ask me, at a later date, maybe some questions if you want to look at the report and look at this information, some of these definitions. I do want to go over page 4. So please turn to page 4. Okay. In layman terms, an audit, the purpose of an audit is for us, the accounting firm, to give an opinion on the financial information. I mean, it's really that simple. So I'm here to give an opinion on the fiscal year ended June 30, 2018. There's 2, if you see on page 4, bullet point 1 and 2, there's 2 auditor opinions in a governmental audit typically. You got the financial statement audit, which that's number 1. That's what you think of as an audit. We're auditing the numbers and the notes and the financial information. The second one is the internal control audit. So this is the confusing part when it comes to internal controls. This is the report that's in the back of the financial statements. Typically, you'll see findings, and we have a couple of findings to talk about tonight. What's important to understand here is we do not audit internal controls, so there is a limitation. So, if you see us say there's finding X, Y, or Z, it doesn't mean that we're not giving opinion on the effectiveness of the town's internal control. Really what we're doing is the internal control audit is a byproduct of the financial statement audit, which is the number 1 bullet point. So it's really important to kind of understand that, because some people are confused about that internal control audit, which is, called the Yellow Book opinion. So for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2018, the town received an unmodified opinion, also known as a clean opinion. So basically what that's saying is these financial statements, which you should have had access to by now, are free from material misstatements, and they're presented in accordance with standards. Any questions about these definitions?
No, sir.
No.
All right, let's go to the next section. This is the part that you guys, if you have any questions, you can start, breaking this up. I can't see you guys reacting if you're falling asleep or if you're angry at me making faces or whatnot, so I'm a little bit at a disadvantage. But let's go to page 5. And what I'm going to do, I've just made notes. I'm just going to talk from my notes. This is the required information at the conclusion of an audit that I'm supposed to deliver to the board as well as the mayor. Okay, first off, I'm going to hit on two sections mainly. Difficulties encountered in performing the audit. Now, I've had a couple of you guys have contacted me, asking me about the late audit. This is where I'm going to talk about that. Okay, so this is June 30th, 2018. The report wasn't issued until February 2020, so obviously we have an issue there. The audit for 2018 should have been typically due by the end of the calendar year. The LGC allows you to basically to the end of the calendar year, and they don't really give you any problems. So what ended up happening in 2018 is the hurricane happened I think it was September of 18. Spring Lake was affected pretty negatively, adversely, as well as Lumberton in this entire area. So understandably, the audit was delayed there. So what ended up happening is our field work, we didn't even begin the audit until February 18, 2019. The audit was already considered late when we began the field work. By the end of April 2019, we had completed 95% of the audit. So we could have essentially issued the report in May of 2019, but what ended up happening, that 5% that we needed, it took the town 9.5 months to get us 5% of the audit. That's in a nutshell what happened. So, I talked to some of the board members and the mayor about this, why this happened. The finance director is no longer here. I worked 3 years with him previously. I could never figure out. He would tell me over and over again that he was going to submit that 5%. It was the actuarial report. He kept telling me he was going to do it. Because it was such a small task, I believed it each time, and more and more time passed, and he'd say, yeah, I'll do it. We probably contacted him 15 or 20 times with these nagging emails and phone calls. Actually, I was supposed to meet you guys a couple of months ago, and actually, I tracked all my emails. I went back and looked at all the emails that me and the staff that worked on this job. So we did bother and pester him with emails and calls during that time. You could argue that we should have spoken to somebody else. That's fine, but what ended up happening is I talked to the town clerk, and I did write a letter to the board in September of 2019. What's crazy about that, so the board knew about it then, and I also spoke to the LGC. Everybody was bothering your previous finance director. I had the LGC involved, I was calling, my staff was calling, we kept being told I was bothering Gabe, who now is the finance director, I believe, asking a million times, not a million times, but even after the board was notified, it took 3 months before he even sent the information to the actuarial to the actuarial company, which is pretty crazy, which is absurd. We didn't even get our last request until February 19th. So, that's the story. Obviously we were dissatisfied with the timeliness of that information. But is there any questions? I know I've spoken to some of you guys about that. I know everybody's unhappy about it. Essentially, the press has asked me about it as well. Is there any questions about that?
No one speak up, sir. You may continue.
Okay. Well, I'll move right along. In 2018 fiscal year, there were no new accounting policies adopted during the year. There were no disagreements with the report. And at the conclusion of the audit, management signed the management rep letter, which essentially it shifts the responsibility. So management is in charge of internal controls, timely information, as well as the report. So, we get management to sign that at the conclusion of the audit, which is also routine. And that's also mentioned in pages, 5, 6, and 7. Some of that information is presented. So the last bit of information on 5, 6, and 7 I do want to discuss is page 6. There were 2 findings in the report this year. They're noted on page 6 of the handout. Now, when I mentioned the 2 auditor reports, the financial statement audit report and the internal control audit report, the internal control report is the one in the back. So if you've reviewed the report, you'll see that there's a compliance section. Those 2 findings, which I'm going to talk about now, are in that yellow book, that internal control financial statement report opinion. Okay, so the first one is excess of expenditures over appropriation. Unfortunately, the town, over our 4 years auditing the town's had this issue most years. I think one of these years we haven't had this finding. Your prior finance director had some, he had some good qualities, but this wasn't one of them. There were 3 departments that the expenditures were over the budget. The largest number that if you're looking on page 6, the excess of expenditure over appropriation, you see that in bold section. You see the number, there was 3 overages of $482,013, $98,719, and $6,251. You may be thinking that $482,000 is very alarming, which I do need to provide some context with that. The $482,000 actually is a little bit misleading. It's related to the second finding. The second finding is a prior period adjustment. And I do need to explain that the prior period adjustment is also a finding that's the next paragraph. People have been wondering what took Butch so long, or Mr. Watson, the prior finance officer, so long why was he delaying the audit? Nobody knows, but I wonder if this particular finding was the case. I don't know if he thought he would be fired if you guys found this out, but essentially what happened is in 2014 there was installment purchase proceeds of $575,000 to finance 2 screw pumps at the wastewater treatment plant. So the town got a loan approved. And this was in 14. This was before Bush even. I think Bush started later in that fiscal year, and the town, the state auditor investigation, for those of you who have been around, that was about that time where everybody was basically fired. There was a lot of turnover at the time. So Bush probably, it's not likely Bush even knew about this. So I'm not sure how much blame I would put on him for this fiscal year. But what ended up happening is the town got a loan, but they never used those proceeds. So there was $575,000. That money just sat in account for 4 years. So in fiscal year 18, Bush was notified about that money. It was sitting in an escrow account. So essentially they took that money and just paid the debt off in fiscal year 18. And so that payment of debt triggered a finding because it wasn't budgeted. The board didn't know about, you didn't know about that money, so you didn't know you were going to pay that debt off. So that created the finding mentioned. So the previous note that I was talking about, the excess of expenditures over appropriation, if you wouldn't have had this situation, there would only be 2 budget overages. So if you look at it that way, so that finding is related to the budget overage finding. Is there any questions about this one? I know this is a little bit confusing.
No, sir.
Okay, we'll keep moving along. That's all I want to talk about that section. A couple of just general highlights of fiscal year 18. I know that, you know, this was a long time ago, 2018. One of the things that was holding the audit up is the actuarial report. For 2018, there was a new accounting standard, GASB 75. And what that's related to post-employment benefits other than pensions. And so what that ended up doing is slapping on a liability to the town of Spring Lake that didn't previously exist on the balance sheet. So that liability hurt the governmental balance sheet by over $3 million. So it was a pretty significant hit. It was kind of a paper journal entry. But that, if you look on page 3 of the report, if you were to go back and look at the report, it's the management discussion analysis on page 3. If you read the financial highlights, that was the first bullet point in the financial statement highlights. But that's one of the big stories of fiscal year 18 as well. If you were to look at the prior fiscal year, 2017, and compare to this fiscal year, you would notice that the balance sheet, your net position is much lower and your liabilities are much higher. Essentially by this, it's an actuarial determined liability. So that's going to be new. That was new in fiscal year 18, and that's going to be, you'll see that going forward each fiscal year. Any questions about that?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Oh, hi. Can we hear a little bit more about the Public Safety Grants and Projects Fund? It seems there was $98,719 over in that area. Do you know anything about that?
Wait. Sorry, I missed that.
Oh, sorry. The Public Safety Grants and Projects Fund, there was an overage of $98,719. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do we have any more information about, I understand what happened in the Water and Sewer Fund, but I'm just curious what happened in the Public Safety Grants and Projects Fund?
I'm glad you brought that up. I actually emailed, I emailed the new finance director, and I also emailed the manager about that. Those two are actually a combination, so let's see if I can find the page. But what that is, yeah, actually I happen to flip, it's on page, if you have the report, it's page 70 and page 72. I don't know if you have the report, but you could write that down. But essentially what that is you have a project, and the expenditures of that project carry forward year to year. So you're accumulating expenditures. But what ended up happening is the accumulated expenditures went over the project's budget. And so, you know, it's a finding like anything else, but that wasn't an annual, that was the board really what should have happened on that one, which I've emailed the manager now, as well as the finance director. The board needs to look at these two pages and look at these two funds and make sure that you budget the expenditures above, you know, you need to reassess that budget because currently the town's over. And again, these are accumulated, these are expenses and revenues that have accumulated in the form of their project funds, essentially. So that finding will probably be there in fiscal year 19. That was one thing I was going to talk to you at the conclusion of this presentation. But this can be fixed for fiscal year 20. So this is something the board needs to look at immediately between now and June 30th, 2020.
So how many years has it accrued so far?
That I don't know. That you'd have to go back in all the reports and just see where the origin of the project was.
Okay, thank you.
But what needs to happen is there needs to be amendment. The board needs to approve amendment to that project so we can to get rid of that finding. Okay, let's so when I'm talking about fiscal year 19, I was instructed to kind of mention fiscal year 19 since we finally got past 18. I talked to the finance director today. I've been in contact with her weekly, probably over the last month. The mayor's been contacting me quite a bit, trying, checking in and finding out what's going on. I should have a trial balance by the end of this week, if not early next week, to begin the fiscal year 19 audit. We're already late for fiscal year 19. As I just mentioned, I would like to, as far as expectation, Gay Tucker, the finance director, is kind of at the mercy of whatever happened. She's taking over with a situation where the audit's already late. So we don't really, at least I don't, sitting here, I can't really give an expectation. There's likely to be findings, I'm thinking. I'm just crossing my fingers that the financial information will be very positive, but there may be some findings just due to the fact that the audit was so late, and I mean, it's really up to whatever Mr. Watson was, how well he did, but he's going to be long gone by the time we issue the 19 report. So I at least wanted to bring that up in case, there's 2 or 3 findings, which I would bring that up again for next audit, but I just wanted to bring that up as well right now. But the goal is to get the report out. I think our initial goal is, it's very realistic to get it out in June or July, where by fiscal year 20's audit, the town would be right back where it needs to be. So it's actually a really good time. There's a lot of downtime this point, this time of year for our firm. So if we can just get the information from the town, there's no reason we can't turn around fiscal year 19. And one other thing, I do think Gay, the new finance director, she's a much stronger accounting person than Butch is. Butch probably is better with the debt, maybe some other type skills he had, but as far as the debits and credits, accounting skill-wise, Gay's been kind of on the ground level. So from an accounting standpoint, she's definitely stronger. The one more thing I would like to caution, and I brought this to the mayor's attention as well as management. With Butch gone, there is likely a segregation of duties issue and internal controls that needs to be addressed. So what may happen if the town doesn't address it? You may see an internal control finding as an additional internal control finding on top of whatever else we may find. But I have cautioned them because Gay was involved with accounts payable, and she really, you did have Butch there you really need more people in your staff to have a proper segregation of duties. You want to separate the various tasks in the finance department, and with one less person, that would be very challenging. So that's definitely something the town needs to take a strong, a hard look at, which I have already brought it to their attention multiple times at this point. Is there any other questions regarding the findings or anything else?
I don't have any.
All right, let's go to the graphical information. That's going back to the handout. It's in Appendix A. There's graphs. So you go to page 1 of the graph. And what I have here is there's 5 years of information. We've audited the last 4 years of the 5. So you can get an idea, a little bit of a historical perspective. For the first one, it's the analysis of fund balance for governmental funds. And for fiscal year 2018, the total fund balance of the governmental funds is $2.8 million. And as you'll see in most of these graphs, fiscal year 2015 and 16 were the highest 2 years. And I think, and Mr. Jarrett, we were talking about that. Historically, those 2 years, that was when Tad Davis was manager and the state auditor was involved, and the town was basically shutting down, I think, really being strict on expenditures because of all the scrutiny going on with the P cards. So if you were to take out those 2 years in a lot of these graphs, and you just look at fiscal year 18, 17, and even 14, and just draw a line, they're relatively the same. And if we actually had 10 years of information, you would probably find that fiscal year, although it's kind of trending downward in these graphs, it's likely that, for those of you who have been involved with Spring Lake, it's likely that fiscal year 18 is a pretty good year if you were to go back, 10 years. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention as well as we go through these graphs. Let's go to page 2. And this is the analysis of unassigned fund balance as a percentage of general fund expenditures. Now this is the emergency fund calculation essentially for your main operating fund of the town. And again, it looks like it's, 15 and 16 are the two highest years, but they're kind of outlier years. Again, if you look at 14, 17, and 18, they're very similar. The town at June 30th, 2018 has a reserve of 27%, which that's a good number. It's not as high as 15 and 16, but that's still 3 months. Essentially, it's 3 months of expenditure. So that's still, I think historically where the town had been years ago, I think that's a really good number. So again, don't be alarmed by the dip. I mean, what I'm hoping is we look at 19 and you're still about that, and still in that same range, and the town would be just fine. Well, let's go to page 3. Similarly, you can see fiscal year 15 and 16 were the two highest, and then you can see some downward trends. I mean, that's kind of what you're seeing in all these metrics. Cash is at $4.4 million at June 30th, 2018. Let's go to page 4. Page 4 and 5, these aren't trends, these are just a breakdown of general fund revenue is page 4, and page 5 is a breakdown of general fund expenditures. It's just a pie graph. You can see where the money's coming from by source, kind of in a percentage pie graph form. So that's page 4 and 5. Page 6, this is what your previous finance director was always pretty strong at. This is your outstanding debt. So as you saw on the previous graph, a couple of graphs ago, you saw your cash going down. Well, the cash is going, a lot of this cash is going to your debt. So the town, since 2014, has paid off almost $3 million of debt. Either paid off or reduced debt. Actually, it's I think I have $2.8 million from 2014 to 2018. So this kind of is the reverse trend of your cash going, or it's the same trend, your debt's going down, your cash is going down. Go to page 7. And very similar to the other graphs, this is your general fund balance, which your fund balance is basically your equity, your assets minus your liabilities. Fiscal year 15 and 16 are your two high years, just like the other graphs, and then you see the trend downward. Go to page 8. This is the same thing. This is your unassigned fund balance, general fund, very similar to the previous graph. This is the fund balance portion of your fund balance that does not have a restriction. So basically, it can be used basically for any government's purpose, town's purpose. Let's go to page 9. This is your property taxes for the last 5 fiscal years, and as you can see, that's a pretty steady, not a whole lot going on this page. Let's go to page 10. Same thing, fiscal year 18, property tax collection percentage was 99.28%, basically in line with the previous 4 fiscal years. Okay, page 11, this is the last page. Okay, this you see the big drop off on this particular page. This is your enterprise fund, which is basically your water and sewer fund primarily. So you see fiscal year 17, $8.8 million, and you see how it just drops off. Or excuse me, yes, from 17 to 18, you see that large drop off. That's because of the new pension, or the actuarial determined liability that I mentioned earlier, GASB 75. GASB 75 decreased your enterprise funds by $729,000. So that dip is a little misleading. So there was an $840,000 decrease from 17 to 18. Of that 840,000, 729 was related to the actuarial determined liability that the town was hit with in fiscal year 18. Which again, that's a new liability that's going to be. We have to get an actuarial report every single year, and we're going to have to put that, put those numbers in every single year going forward. So it's not really apples to apples comparison when you look at the previous fiscal year. Any questions about the graphs or anything else?
Yes, hold on, please.
Yes. Do you know what was driving the change in the actuarial report? Did something change with us, or did something change with the way we do the actuarial report?
No, I usually try to stay out of talking about the actuarial report, but what I have noticed recently, it's been scary from a personal standpoint, because I like to invest money personally, but if you play with any of the actuarial factors, you tinker with what you expect the rate of return to be on plan investments, or anything, maybe mortality rate. If you tinker with those percentages, it can really negatively affect the liability you come up with. So these liabilities can be up and down and all over the place, depending on what their inputs are. But it's not anything the town has control of, or I have no control over it.
Okay, do you know who we could talk to about that? Because I'm just wondering, was it different employees coming in, or some change, or like who would know about that?
You could talk to it's Kavanaugh McDonald is the name of the company. There are footnotes. There's several footnotes related in the financial statements that you could read about it, but I don't think it would answer your specific question. But again, from an audit standpoint, we take that report which they provide. Pretty much most municipalities that have any size at all are required to get these reports, and we just take the numbers from the actuary and incorporate it to the financial.
Thank you.
But real quick, just for example, if you could write this down, if you don't have a report in front of you, I'm just looking randomly to page 36, for example. On page 36 of the report, this is not stuff I'm typically interested in from an audit standpoint, but maybe you would be. It has inflation, it has actuarial assumptions, if you see that section, and it talks a little bit about, it says salary increases, investment rate of return. I mean, there's various, it even talks about the allocation of the plan investments. Again, this isn't stuff from my standpoint I spend a lot of time on, but what I do know is these numbers are so much subject to change that it kind of, to me, it loses some of its value in my opinion, but I don't know, that's just my opinion anyway.
So you don't think that this particular drop is unusual or worrisome then?
No, this is across the board. And I audited a lot of municipalities as well as community colleges as well, and you wouldn't believe the devastation on the balance sheet. And I've had to have this conversation, and the audit's so late that I should have already had this conversation with the board a long time ago if the audit was on time. But it's confusing to see it. I understand that, but it's almost normal. It's pretty normal to see that. I mean, a lot of the community colleges that I audit, their net position is in a negative number. It was, and before, for years and years, it was positive, where their assets were greater than the liabilities. What ended up happening, they had to put, this OPEB and these various liabilities into their financials, and then now they're showing more liabilities than assets. And so that's pretty common.
Gotcha. So would you say that that other municipalities you've seen, have they seen a similar recent effect, or what would you say about that?
Wait, sorry, I missed that last part.
So would you say, do you know of other municipalities that had a similarly sized effect in 2018?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to say almost anyone that look up Town of Emerald Isle on, you can Google it. I mean, I know I audited that one. I'm sure if you look at fiscal year 18, you'll see a big drop.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Cooper, do you have questions? We can't see you in motion.
I don't have that report. I have the book, but I don't have that report you all have, so I really don't know what I would ask.
But Mr.
Okay,
Grissom,
and I gave Mr. Carroll that asked me for the report in PDF today. We did mail a hard copy of the reports last week to the town, so that I don't know. It either should be in there. It should be at the town today or tomorrow. There should be a copy of the report, but there's also a PDF copy of the report that I mean I could send or anybody in the town has access to.
This is a report right here. We have it, sir.
Oh, okay. Maybe I didn't hear the question.
No, we have it. She just not here, so she don't have it.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah, we'll get it to her.
Look, my contact information, if you have that, you can ask me questions later. You got me.
oh, okay, any questions about the 18 report? Okay, one question, sir, as we go to the 19 audit report, I guess all you can do is give us a prognosis here, right?
That's correct. That's correct. And again, like I said, we're when we judge next audit, your finance director is now gone, which I think that's a great thing, honestly. I think he wasn't doing his job, essentially. It was his responsibility for the town. But what ends up happening for fiscal year 19, a lot of that's going to be what the finance director was in charge of. And if we're going to be judging 19, but you're going to have a new finance director in place, Gay Tucker. So if we have a bunch of findings, I don't know, I guess you just kind of cross your fingers at this point because it's so unusual. The audit was so late, such an unusual situation that as far as expectations, I'm a little bit cautious to even give anything like that.
Well, that's very honest, so that's all we can ask.
Okay.
But I think you already know to keep us a little more informed from your perspective.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. You guys have a good evening.
Yes, you too. Well, we shall entertain a motion on item 10. Alderman O'Gara.
President wanted to know that I want to make a motion to accept this audit that we just received. 2018.
Is there a second? Mayor Pro Tem?
I second it.
It has been moved and seconded that we accept the audit report for the 2018 audit report. All in favor, sign of aye.
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 Any opposed, sign of nay. All right, all right. Okay, the next motion. Alderwoman Jackson.
I make a motion that we go into closed session G.S. 143.318.11A4 economic development and G.S. 143.318.11A6 personnel.
Mayor Pro Tem.
I second that motion.
It has been moved and seconded that we go into closed session for economic development and personnel matters. All in favor, sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, sign of nay.
We're going to do closed session in here too? adjourn the meeting?
Mayor Pro Tem,
I second that motion.
it's been moved and seconded that we hereby adjourn the meeting. Those in favor, sign of aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, sign of nay. Ayes have it. So ordered.
What do we do with this?